Now I'll hand our webcast off to our speaker, Richard Frickberg, the CEO with IQX Business Solutions. Richard, take it away.
Good day, everyone, and thank you, Heather. I'm very excited to talk to this topic. As we know, AI is in everything these days. We can't get far from Apple Intelligence or autonomous driving or Copilot. But what is artificial intelligence really? How smart is this system? In reality, artificial intelligence is just simply machine learning. The machines have learned the patterns. And in order to achieve the outcomes that we love, it relies on good data. It's high volume, high quality, readily accessible, consistent training data with the expected results. Now, the real question for us in the CapEx management cycle is how can we use AI better to assist with this critical business process of CapEx planning, budgeting, and project control. We find that there's scope for AI application within the asset management lifecycle in three main areas: preparing your business cases, picking the projects, and then managing the projects through the execution lifecycle. When it comes to business case preparation, the goal is really to make it easier for the engineers to prepare the business cases for the new investment in capital, plant and equipment, new systems, and other revolutionary technologies. So traditionally, when asked to prepare a business case, there's panic as the end user tries to source the Excel template and fill it out. It's typically been prepared by an accountant and then has to be filled out by an engineer, and it's often not that intuitive. Whilst they know exactly what they want and they have the technical insight, sometimes expressing themselves into the winning business case that's going to make it into the budget or get approved is a challenge for many of our end users. And we know that there's a world of knowledge out there that can be and should be leveraged when preparing these business cases. So really, the ChatGPT style of generative AI is an exciting opportunity to leverage that learning that's out there and help individual business department or process owners or engineers prepare high quality winning business cases. The next major area is, once we have these great investment proposals coming through, how do we pick the ones that are really most important? They're going to make most difference to our future success as an organization. We found that AI being applied to help perform simulations of the individual project outcomes and the portfolio as a whole. We help to, on the basis of the demonstrated variability of that outcome, because everyone tends to create a business case based on the happy result, right? The most likely outcome. But we always know that schedules can shift and costs can vary. And how much should we be providing in addition to what's being asked for? As opposed to a standard percentage, we can apply more experience to the modeling of project outcomes and know that with certain classes of projects, probably IT projects, you might want to provide slightly more contingency in schedule and cost, than for a fixed equipment purchase. And then how do we convey, the impact, meaning of the project portfolio, our selection of projects for next year, in a way that the executive really understand what they're getting for their long-term investment. It takes a lot of cash to build a CapEx portfolio, and that return is sometimes delayed for many years. So it's a tough equation, and presenting that information in a way that makes sense to the senior decision makers is a real application for AI capabilities. Any CapEx controller or departmental manager or finance executive understands the challenge with capital forecasting and control. No matter how much you ask the project managers for their best forecast of project outcomes, they tend to be overly optimistic. Yeah, they hang on to their capital budgets, even though we know realistically they're not going to be spent. The main problem we see today is projects being delayed and the capital budgets not being released on a timely basis. And that's unfortunate, because if we did know that the project has slipped and the budget has moved to the following fiscal year, there might really be an opportunity to bring forward some other business critical initiatives. So how do we learn from our previous project experience and provide AI-powered insights into the more likely project outcomes? Yeah, by looking at historical projects, ours and potentially others, and patterns of project type and project value, supplier and location, etc. We can provide a more objective likely forecast of the project expenditure than we'll probably get when you ask an optimistic project manager. And then based on that objective forecast, we can start triggering alerts where opportunities arise, or we're facing challenges, or things, frankly, might need to be stopped. Yeah, if the forecasted, project investment is likely to exceed the business case benefits and threshold ROI returns, we can prevent wastage. Yeah, because we have to always look forward, no matter how much is a sunk cost in projects to date. We always need to make sure that we're spending the future dollars in the best possible way. So that's the third main area of AI adoption. So I guess the question of the day is, why aren't you adopting AI technologies if you're not yet? And I think the culprit is fundamentally the spreadsheet. Yeah. So very large organizations to very small organizations tend to rely heavily on spreadsheets to help plan and justify, control and report on their CapEx project portfolio. The problem with spreadsheets is they're individual documents, in a variety of folders. They're beautiful because they're flexible, but with that flexibility, comes inconsistency. Yeah, it's for the security of those business cases, they're often placed in controlled folders on network drives, and they're not readily accessible to get a holistic appreciation of a real project experience, and what's really turned out to be successful and what's really turned out to be less successful if we examine our historical project performance. Spreadsheets are flexible and they incomplete. It's very hard to enforce, filling in each field of a financial analysis. So the quality of these spreadsheets is often lacking, and that unreliability, is a huge constraint to being able to leverage that CapEx information to make better future CapEx decisions. So if spreadsheets are a core challenge to digitalization, what is the way forward? Yeah, how can you adjust your current CapEx management processes to take advantage of AI capabilities in the future? The simple answer is we need to digitalize CapEx management. It's only if you know from the beginning to the end what went into the business case, what were your classifications and justifications and thoughts when you estimated and scheduled and classified your projects that got approved and got executed and into results. It's only if you know from the beginning to the very end what it actually cost, when it was actually delivered, and the real benefits achieved from the project through that post-implementation review and whether it was successful. It's only if we have a clear line of sight from the beginning to the very end that we can start to apply our machine learning skills to identify, what are the attributes that make for a successful project, and how are we going to pick better next time. We need to allow AI to help us and help our engineers produce higher quality business cases, broaden their thinking around the potential benefits and risks, strategic alignment and cost components of their business cases. Why not, access all the accumulated, knowledge of the universe, and why do we have to do it all by ourselves? So integrating these large language models and accumulated knowledge to flesh out our business case and not miss critical cost components or value contributions. We really need to understand the characteristics, the key features that drive successful outcomes, and we really need to understand our cost development profiles, so that when we look at our next project that's halfway through and 60% over budget and 2 months over schedule, despite the fact that the project manager is hoping to come in on budget and on schedule, we can provide a much more objective assessment of the likely cost development profile and schedule delivery if we have a history, a rich repository of prior projects and their actual cash flows and outcomes. So that's step one, is digitalize this process. I guess the key question for us is, how can we do that in our SAP environment? Well, that's what we do as a business. We're really exclusively focused on delivering these integrated digital CapEx management solutions for SAP. So we do that in a number of ways. Firstly, we're SAP focused, and SAP is our single source of truth, our ultimate single source of truth for project execution and procurement and asset accounting and financial control. So everything is based on SAP as a platform. As we all know, the SAP user experience is harder for occasional users, for regular business users, let's say engineers who just want to create a requisition or stand up a project, or executives who just want to approve a business process. So as we move towards S/4HANA, we're becoming familiar with Fiori as a front end to our traditional SAP backends, and that can really try and change the user perception of SAP, where SAP is now accessible on their browsers, on any device, in the office or on the road. So we have a suite of Fiori apps that really surface SAP functionality, but do it in a very user-friendly and process-oriented way. We'll talk a bit more about that. But at the very front end of the CapEx management cycle, we still see that there's a demand to prepare, wish lists for the capital budget. There's still a need to pick the right projects in terms of our budgeting cycle. And when it comes to CapEx approvals, even though organizations have had SAP for many years, a lot of the times that workflow is managed through, Adobe signing technologies or SharePoint technologies or external workflow approval systems. Yeah, we end up in many cases with these siloed systems for managing CapEx. One of those systems is Excel, another one is email, another one is Adobe, and then we have SAP, and then we might have some built-on analytic tools for forecasting and information presentation, but we don't have that clear line of sight from the very beginning to the very end. So just to introduce a little bit of our front-end SaaS tool, we call it Stratex Online. And one of the major drivers of that is, in large enterprises, not every engineer who has a demand for CapEx project is SAP licensed, is SAP trained. And in fact, there's many business units in large enterprises which don't even run SAP, but they want a common business process for idea management and the budgeting cycle and CapEx approvals. So that's why, we introduced SaaS, Stratex Online, into the market, and it really does take advantage of some of these new AI-powered capabilities. So when it comes to filling out a project proposal, developing a business case, we don't present necessarily a full form that has to be filled out. We can do it more naturally and have the engineer kind of describe their idea or their need, challenge, and through a kind of facilitated generative AI conversation, we can help them produce, a structured business case and classified business case that considers some of those key elements around the costing and risks and benefits and schedules. Once we have these proposals prepared in the system, a key part of the solution is trying to prioritize some way of ranking and scoring initiatives so that departmental managers can submit a project portfolio request that is justified, in terms of why certain projects, given limitations on budgets and human capacity, when we have to make a choice, which we invariably do, about which projects we can prioritize for next year. The tool really helps business managers have an objective assessment through a scoring mechanism of the most valuable initiatives to propose. When the CapEx committee or controller comes to approving a capital allocation across many business units, they require some analytical tools to really understand, what's in that portfolio, what does it look like, what does it mean from an executive perspective in terms of that cash flow and EBIT impact over time. So this is all about capturing our wish lists, taking them out of Excel, they get emailed, and putting them into a system with a consistent scoring method, so that when we consider our budget allocation for next year, we have clear visibility of what that means from a future cash flow and EBIT perspective. The detailed business cases, the financial analysis of business cases today is typically done in Excel. And one of the key challenges we see with an Excel-based business case justification is it tends to include a list of cost components, a flat list of cost components with little consideration of the interdependency of those cost components and the dimension of time. And that's probably the reason why so many projects end up over schedule. So a key part of our business case building functionality is this financial analysis tool, which really fundamentally helps the engineers think about their activities, think about the split between CapEx and OpEx items, think about the source of supply, whether this is internal or external activity, and then the schedule dependencies of those items. When is the cash flow for those activities going to occur? Is it through a series of milestone payments? Is it all at the beginning? Is it all at the end? Is it kind of spread equally through the project? Is that activity duration dependent? So are you paying per period? And the longer the project takes, the more it's going to cost. Or is it a fixed price that you can safely extend the project duration without incurring any more costs? So really prioritizing the dimension of time into the business case justification really helps produce reliable schedules and factors in the net present value calculations more effectively, because when those schedules do adjust or the projects do get pushed back, all the cash flows move with them, and so do the benefits. So it provides, when you do the modeling of the portfolio, it really provides the insight as to what that's going to mean from a P&L and ultimately a bonus perspective. Individual activities are broken out, as I indicated, with durations and dependencies and unit measures. And a key component of the financial analysis templates is the idea to leverage parameters, so that if you have global standards, for things like internal labor rates for various labor types, you can define those centrally and incorporate your global parameters into your models. You can also have project template specific parameters. That makes it really easy to complete a financial analysis for an engineer. For simple projects, they might literally need to type in 3 numbers, the expected cost, start date, and periodic savings, and everything, including the key financial metrics of internal rate of return and payback, and net present value, etc., can all be consistently and automatically calculated for them without Excel manipulation. One of the other constraints of Excel is the workbook tends to be owned, by one individual at one time, and it's hard to collaborate. It's hard to get the input of finance and engineering and procurement to fully assess this project initiative, right? To fully assess the risks inherent of delay, of not doing it. What is the urgency to do something, as well as the risks inherent in implementation? How confident are we of the successful delivery in terms of the legal and information security and technical risks inherent in the project. Also, strategic alignment is a key question in prioritizing initiatives and really enabling all, a team effort to produce a consistent assessment of these projects across various dimensions, like the business benefit, like the urgency, the risk of not doing, the risk of doing, and the strategic alignment helps form a balanced assessment around that project priority. We can capture the comments and supporting documents of all parties, so that when, and this is the critical point, accelerate the executive approval, the executives are provided with a holistic, business case justification that has all those supporting documents, that has all those, collaboration comments and endorsements, that has, the questions being answered, that has the linkages to related projects, that has a broad-based and consistent evaluation of critical project success dimensions, and allows them to make confident, and what we all care about, faster approval decisions. Yeah. And when it comes to the workflow, I guess having a business case in a single system with a workflow overlay allows us to adopt, accelerated, workflow techniques, like parallelizing the approval wherever possible. If, the maintenance manager's approval is independent of the procurement manager's approval or the finance manager's approval, why not allow them to all approve, in parallel? And as soon as the last approval is gained, we can take it up to the next level of management approval. So enabling parallelized approvals with reminders and escalations and delegations really expedites the whole approval process and provides real-time transparency of where the request is at to the originator, so they can follow up and hurry up the bottlenecks. What we really care about is, once we've gone through this ideation cycle, the proposal, the portfolio request, the budget approval, the business case development, the financial justification, the executive approvals of the original project and supplements, what we really care about as SAP practitioners is the timely setup of those projects or internal orders in your SAP system, so that you can kick off your procurement cycle. Yeah, so you can start raising the POs and delivering the business outcomes. So being an SAP centric organization, the whole structure of our data model is optimized to integrate through to SAP, automatically, create the SAP projects, update the budgets, set the planned forecasts, do status releases, and downstream, manage the collation of actuals and commitments from SAP, back into the portfolio management environment. So as a project is created and immediately it's approved, seconds later the project is created and the participants are notified of that project ID, so they can raise their requisitions. Another aspect of this front-end solution is to facilitate the capture of the project manager's expenditure forecasts. As we know, that's a very important learning for future artificial application. We first want to know what the human forecast was. We want to be able to compare human forecasts to actual experience, and we want to do it quickly and easily from a single source of truth without having to consolidate spreadsheets. So that's a key capability of this tool, is to capture those forecasts, capture the actuals from SAP, and then to be able to drive timely, rich analytics based on both the project expenditure profiles, as well as we spoke about earlier, the financial impact of those projects to future operating results. At a portfolio management level, of course, the detailed drill down examination of line item postings and individual goods receipts or service entry sheets will remain in SAP, but it's about providing the overall visibility of the CapEx projects portfolio and its impacts. And directly within the tool, there's some slice and dice analytical capabilities. But of course, once this data is collected and standardized and accessible, analytics don't have to only be done in the tool itself. This data set is a rich data set that can be passed up into your SAP Analytics Cloud or Power BI, performance management dashboards. The key point is that the data is, aggregated and standardized and quality assured from the very beginning, and it's not an impossible task that Excel spreadsheets, might be. So the main objective here is to have, the drill down, transparency and visibility in one system with high quality data, and in this business case stage also incorporate things like the alternative options that were considered. One of the big constraints of spreadsheets tends to be it's, certainly in the portfolio views or in the project request stages, Excel, is a two-dimensional model. We've got columns and rows, but sometimes these projects have other options accessible to them, right? If you think more deeply about the business need and the potential solutions, there's often a kind of bronze, silver, gold option to delivery, and facilitating that more detailed analysis can help the organization save money by not always picking the gold option, which is the preferred one often by the responsible person, but realizing, look, there's more than one way from getting to A to B. We don't have to rely on Rolls Royces. There's bicycles and motorbikes and Rolls Royces, and let's pick the solution that's appropriate to our level of maturity or our specific need. I guess another thing that's exciting about the tool, and by design as a SaaS product, it's pretty much ready to run and self-configured by your process administrators. Zero coding involved in configuring the tool to replace your Excel spreadsheets off the bat. Just a bit of a drill down here on configuration screens. Okay, so once we've got the projects identified, ranked, prioritized, budgeted, approved, and now in the project phase of execution, this is where our focus shifts more onto the Fiori apps and a range of apps from vendor onboarding to purchasing to goods receipting. But the most project-specific app, I guess, is project completion. Once we've delivered the project, we know we need to hopefully create long-lasting assets in the system. We need to value those assets. And we need to transfer the cost off our projects and orders onto this fixed assets. So this is one of our most popular Fiori apps, the project completion request. And I guess the same concepts apply to all our Fiori apps. Is they're out of the box and they work. So you've got a starting off point. It's not what do we need? Let's start with the app that meets your use case, and then it comes with a highly configurable tooling. So it's quick and cost effective to enhance the UI for your specific data needs. It's quick and flexible to enhance the workflow for your specific process requirements, and it's quick and flexible to enhance the SAP integration to the way your system is configured. Key focus is to try and simplify the user experience, to focus on the business process and not the SAP functionality. So, for example, with project completion, it's about the person responsible identifying that the project is complete and triggering the completion process, and that will go through some steps of approval by the various stakeholders, maybe by the departmental manager, the cost center manager, who's going to be wearing that depreciation cost going forward, through the procurement team to make sure that the purchase orders are closed off, through the financial asset accounting team to make sure that the assets that are being created are correctly classified, have the right depreciation classes and useful lives. So workflows are a very important part of the solution. And then once we all agree that this project is done and these are the assets and this is the asset split and these are the useful lives and classifications, we can automatically create those assets, update the settlement rules, change the status of the project, close out the POs, return any unused budgets, remove forecast, etc. So all the steps that would otherwise need to be manually done, directly in the old GUI or through multiple Fiori apps, the key objective with our Fiori app suite is to orchestrate all those SAP backend transactions for the convenience and productivity of end users. Okay, so really to sum up, some of the business benefits that we see customers achieving through this digitalization of their CapEx process and the application of these AI-powered data techniques is around cost saving. It's about saving money through improved productivity, through the automation and simplified user experience and expedited workflows, etc. But it's allowing your team to spend less time chasing workflows, filling out spreadsheets, correcting errors, doing reconciliations, because it's a seamless flow, from beginning to end. You're also going to save money by identifying the projects that are likely to fail, and avoiding expenditure, avoiding starting them or avoiding continuing them by having more experienced systematic analysis of your project's performance. And when the system can help you identify projects that are getting into dangerous territory, you can take corrective actions sooner. The next, I guess, set of benefits of this AI-powered CapEx digitalization is, if it's not saving money, it's making money. Yeah, it's really ensuring that when we have to make choices about which projects we're going to undertake next year, and we all do, unless you've got infinite funds and people, you're going to have to make some choices. If we can make the best decisions, we can get a higher net present value, greater return on our investment through effective and balanced project evaluations. So that scoring mechanism is important. That we think not just about necessarily the benefits if everything goes right, but we're moderating that with the risks and sensitivity analysis of likely project performance. And I think particularly now in such a dynamic operating environment, we need more agility in the way that we pick and prioritize projects. We all try to complete our capital budget submissions, sometime in October, hoping that list of projects is still the priority list by the time we get to, the next year, February, and already by then, our priorities have probably changed. Yeah. So if the capital budgeting and approval process is cumbersome and long-winded and static, it's hard to react and adjust and be nimble to changes, in the technology or in the regulatory, or in the supply chain, or what our competitors are doing. So automating this business process, in addition to enabling AI, just generally gives us more flexibility and agility to refine and adjust our where we spend our capital resources. And then finally, it's about risk management. Yeah. Spending a lot of money now for a hopeful future profit is stressful, for the executives making those commitments. So they're very concerned about project risk and performance. And, through the digitalization of this CapEx management lifecycle, we can keep track, of what was planned and what was budgeted and what was changed and what was approved in an integrated way. When these data sources are disparate, it becomes even more concerning for the executive team to really know how our portfolio is developing, and we don't want to surprise them with forecasts that are wildly inaccurate, or schedules that are way off course. So having the data at hand and having that transparency really helps reduce the risk profile from an executive point of view. And the timeliness and reliability of the analytics is a key part of that. Yeah, it's you get much more frequent, much more real time, much more insightful analytics when you have the full picture, when you know what the original proposal was, when you know what the original plan was, when you know what the original business case was, when you know what the original forecasts were, and you know what the actual costs are and how things have changed throughout the project lifecycle. And you're able to access that information, directly from a single source of truth. You're really able to move the dial in terms of effective control and monitoring of the capital projects portfolio. Okay, so we'd love to, understand a little bit more about your environment and how you're addressing the CapEx management life cycle, how you thinking about applying AI techniques to make better long-term capital investment decisions. It's hard to do this, do due diligence in a webinar because every environment is different. But if this is of interest, we'd love to hear your story and see how we can help. So please feel free to Google IQX CapEx demo or scan the QR code or contact us directly. But thank you very much for your time today. delighted to take some questions if you have any questions right now or follow up later.
Hey, Richard, looks like you got a couple questions in.
Okay, I do have one from Abhijit. Do you
Yes.
have any solutions that provides approval workflows? Oh, thank you. Hopefully that's come out, and that's our passion. Yeah. So if there's two things we've always been passionate about, being long-time SAP folk, it's user experience and process automation. So everything we do is workflow enabled. All the CapEx stuff on the SaaS tool, as well as all our Fiori apps directly on top of SAP, have workflow enablement as a fundamental capability.
And then we have somebody else asking how can they contact you. QR code is up on the screen.
Yeah, I think my name isn't. Yeah, it was just a bit bad. I should have put my email address in there. I'll put that in the.
We do have the speaker bio right next. It should be to your right side. If you click on that, you should find Richard's email address.
Please do.
And then what are the environment or infrastructure dependencies to start using your SaaS solution?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, we used to do Fiori only front end processing, and then, as I say, we hit the constraint of SAP licensing, and not SAP, everyone running SAP, and not everyone running SharePoint. So we made the decision to, a couple of years ago, build our own SaaS product that was easy to adopt with zero dependencies. Yeah, so zero dependencies on any underlying collaboration platform like SharePoint, no dependencies on any version of SAP, no dependencies on any infrastructure, any database technology. So it's genuine SaaS that you can literally activate instantly and start using. We have a trial option, so we can give you access and work you through a series of, normally takes 4 workshops to train the administrator in the full suite of the functionality, from the idea management and portfolio management and budgeting and business case preparation and workflow and forecasting analytics, to make you completely self-sufficient to continue on with the implementation.
Wonderful, thank you. Do your Fiori solutions work with ECC, or do they need to be on S/4HANA to use Fiori?
It's a good question. I'd love to know what the audience is doing with Fiori. Short answer is most of our customers are still on ECC, and Fiori works perfectly well on top of an ECC environment. So don't feel like you need to wait for S/4HANA to take advantage, of the Fiori user experience. I think it's a great way, and many of our customers have, led their S/4HANA justifications with introducing Fiori to the business and to the most important people in the business with, a Fiori app for some of these CapEx related business processes. As we know, Fiori with the UI5 controls is a much more familiar and accessible interface. You can launch the Fiori app of any intranet. So a number of customers who might have a SharePoint intranet, but when it comes to initiating a budget transfer or a project completion or whatever, a purchase, or a service entry receipt, whatever, they can just click a link in whatever web environment they're in, go to a user-friendly screen, complete the details they know, submit them, and then if necessary go for approvals, collaboration, and then once we agree, it processes the transactions behind the screens. So yes, please don't feel that you have to wait for S/4HANA to take advantage of Fiori. Fiori is available today, and highly recommended.
Wonderful. how does your solution compare with SAP Investment Management or SAP Project Portfolio Management?
Yeah, so I think it's worth noting that SAP, like provides an answer for everything, and there is a project portfolio management module within SAP, and there's an investment management module within SAP, and a number of customers who make use of those modules. They tend to be typical SAP. They're quite heavy and expensive to implement and deploy. So, but essentially, even the front end solution is compatible with those tools. Even with PPM, we still see many customers, doing their actual business case justifications in Excel models. And really, our mission is to try and reduce the dependency, on Excel from the very beginning. Of course, we'll never eliminate Excel. So we still have a lot of Excel exports and uploads to make it easy, because and for certain estimating tasks or forecasting, Excel's a great tool. But we want to get the data out of those Excel workbooks into a system, at as quickly as possible at point of entry, and drive it from there. So there's no dependency on PPM on SAP. There's no dependency on investment management in SAP. If you have made the investment in those modules, you can retain that. A lot of organizations are, as they move to S4HANA, reconsidering the need to retain those modules, and some of them are dropping them on the way through to simplify their SAP landscapes. But if you need some of that planning and budgeting functionality, then Stratex gives you another option to consider. Of course, available on the SAP App Store, and it's fully certified. So it's an easy bolt-on to your core SAP platform.
Nice. With everything changing so quickly with AI, particularly in the last year, how do you ease the concerns related to using AI within the workforce for budgeting planning?
Yeah, I mean it is a challenge, and how do you leverage the wisdom of the crowds and keep your information confidential? um, and just trying to keep pace with with all the models that are floating around, and picking your platform provider, and developing your AI internal skills. There's no simple answer, right? It's a crazy world out there. All we know is that in order to feed those models with good data, which is essential for any kind of AI application, you need to get off the spreadsheets. So that for us is step number one. We can't do anything with AI with fragmented, inconsistent, poor quality data sources. So let's start with the things we can solve. Let's get rid of the silos. Let's put it all into one system. Let's have consistent, high quality data, and then we'll still have a problem. We still need to pick our AI forecasting technology of choice. So it's not to say that we don't embed the AI models in the tool. We provide that information into your forecasting. So SAP Analytics Cloud, for example, has good forecasting capabilities, and we will feed our data sources into that, so you can be experts in that technology stack if that's your preference. But there's also good AI capabilities in all the stacks, right? Whether you're on Azure or you're on AWS. There's lots of skills being developed in the application of AI models on different technology stacks, and our role is to try and provide the rich data source.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Richard. I mean, this has been so informative, really, really useful information, and we so appreciate you taking the time to go through all of this with us.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. I see we had a question about IQX showing up at a ASUG chapter meeting. I don't know if you guys have plans to be at any chapter meetings anytime soon. Um,
Yes, we attended some of them, so I hope to see you there, Jim.
awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jim, for the question. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you at one of our conferences as well. But anyway, thank you
Thanks,
everybody
Jim.
for tuning in, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Please feel free to pass on this on-demand presentation, and take care.